Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have a chess miniature to share with you, only a 21 mover. This was played on December 27th at the 2024 FIDE World Rapid and Blitz Championships. Round 6 game, Rapid, 15 minutes, 10-second increment. On the white end, Tigran Petrosian playing against Alexander Grischuk. This was a game from day 2 of 3. After day 2, 9 rounds in the books. Grischuk, one of the co-leaders, with 7 points. Now, we started out here, English opening. Black setup is this Caro-Kann defensive system. Strong pawn, center, bishop outside of the pawn chain. Now, if white in this position plays knight h4, bishop g4 is a fine reply, punching back. After bishop e2, however, this is now an idea. This is where we now have h6. Fine reply now in response to knight h4, preserving the bishop. Let's get a few more developing moves in here. The dark square bishop positioned perfect on d6, eyeing both sides of the board, watching out over these possible pivots, primarily by a white knight, e5, c5 squares. A couple more moves in here. 9 moves in. Who stands better? Computer says 0. What might each side be saying here? White could claim, I have a better c-pawn, 4th rank versus your 3rd rank, and I have a better knight, queen knight, 3rd rank knight versus a 2nd rank knight. What is black maybe saying? I have a more active bad bishop, a more active queen bishop in this case. Neither side is saying, I enjoy a lead in development. That is a non-factor in this case. Where do we go from here? Well, in the game, the idea by white, a3. The first think of the game with a3. At the moment, white has more time than he started with. If white takes on this square, this is not a moment where black will follow the general rule and recapture towards the center. And the reason we know this, you can question what this recapturing piece is doing currently and what it would no longer be doing. Watching over b5 in this case. Black remains strong on this square. Is there a way white can take advantage of b5? You bet. They would follow knight b5, back off the bishop. There's bishop a3. There's going to be a big problem here for black. So in short, black is prepared to meet this capture with e takes. And in the end, white has not really accomplished anything. In fact, white has simply increased black's control over a potential pivot square on e5, unleashing a major piece to this point. So the try here is with a3. Expand on the queen side with the pawns, hoping for maybe, hoping to saddle black with maybe a backward pawn, isolated pawn, some target to pinpoint. Also in the process, maybe a file is cracked open. At the moment, all rooks are still saying, can we get a pawn exchange? We need a file to work with. What does Grischuk play here? You could castle and say, I have connected rooks. No castles here. Knight improvement, right in the center. And this is also good news for this guy, who may now follow in the king knight's footsteps. Has a square. White continues to push. b4 on board. And some time taken out to hold up the b5 advance. a6 here. Follow-up is rook c1. Computer is a fan of the following. It says, exchange knights, grab some space here with c5, and look forward to this pawn break, b5. Not the way we go. The move in the game is rook c1. In a way, not the most productive move. I mean, even if the c file opens up after this capture, the rook is hitting this c6 point, which is well supported. Kind of turns out to be a wasted move. Where do we go from here as black? Now is the time to improve this second rank knight? Well, hang on, not so fast. In this game, it is rook d8, still no castles. Notice, if you improve this knight, this would give white a window to improve this knight. There is a competition between these two pieces over the e5 square. Black is not so quick to give up control over the e5 square from this queen knight. It's rook d8. Discouraging knight e5 in many cases. The rook, after all, is opposite the queen. Could be a problem there after a couple captures on the e5 square. After rook d8, white plays knight d2. So, trying to challenge this strongest knight. It's at this moment Black's saying, fine, you're not going to put up a fight over e5? Let me move in now. Knight d to f6. Next move, the knight returns to f3. So white's sort of floundering here. A lot of time spent on that last move, by the way, about 5 minutes spent there. Sort of a draw offer. I mean, are we just going to have these knights dance here and this one end peacefully? Threefold repetition. Grischuk goes for more. Tries to put to use this gift he's been given. He's been gifted a tempo here. The knight jumping back and forth. He runs forward now with knight g4. No returning here. Whether you're on d7 or g4, you still compete for that e5 square. And then some. There's pressure on these dark squares. Now, a difference with the knight posts, d7 and g4, is that on this g4 square, you're not as stable. That post can be brought into question, and is in this game right away with h3. But this knight is not scared. This is where we now have a fishing pole idea. We're seeing a reason in this case here, we're putting to use, I should say, this rook on h8. By not castling, we hook in this knight. It's poison. What's white's reply here? He plays queen to e1. If you take the knight, you're dead. You remove the knight, but you unleash a rook. Your knight is hit. You want to go somewhere? We're looking at checkmate. Next move. So this guy here on g4, poison. Queen e1 played in this position. Just want to point out, there's all sorts of potential tactics available for black now. Maybe you end up taking twice on f2, rook and pawn versus two knight imbalance, with some follow-up taking advantage of the weakened g3, e3 squares, maybe even knight e takes f2, followed by knight takes e3, a knight for two pawns breaking down white's position. White has to be on the lookout for these ideas. If white simply carries on in this position, expanding on the queen side, or I should say first, let's say withdraw the knight. Here's a nice tactic. This will help us understand why white is playing the move queen to e1 rather than trying out this b5 move. Here's a nice tactic. Here's a way black can take advantage of a weakness of the last move, just as the queen knight improved to f6 as soon as the knight was no longer controlling e5, as soon as there was no longer a competition over that square. This knight, if it retreats here to d2, h2 is no longer under control, and here is a fine way to take advantage of that. Kick the king away. Back-to-back moves we're seeing in this case where we're exploiting the weakness of the last move. f2 no longer under support, and there will soon be the loss of a queen here. So, this is a potential idea. There is, we might say, a restriction in this position placed on the f3 knight with these tricks on h2 and f2 nearby. Queen e1. in this case, avoiding any possible fork on that f2 square. Follow up, bishop b8, battery right around the corner, queen bishop battery into h2. From here, knight takes knight, pawn takes knight. You got to find a new home. e5 it is. And now that you're on e5, you're not controlling g5. g5 made use of right away. What are you supposed to do here? In the game, g3 is the try. It's already a difficult position. If some other move is tried, let's say pawn advances here, there is f6. Where's the knight going? This knight remains poison. Do know, if we revisit this idea and open H file, you're really asking for trouble. Do know if f4 in this position, we would not sneak over with the queen just yet. There would be queen g3, and the king can next slip away. In the event of an f-pawn advance in this situation, you're simply capturing, threatening mate, threatening the bishop. This is crushing. Here's a fun little mate. Let's say white played b5 here. This is a cute little mate here. Queen specifically going to h2, and then we can have a pawn mate. So it remains a terrible idea for white to capture this fishing pole knight. Trying this one is g3, and now simple chess from here. Knight takes knight, bishop captures pawn, and it's more than just a pawn. Black is next ready to win the exchange. White flounders around for just a couple more moves here with queen c3, and Grischuk doesn't even take the material. He wants more. He plays h4, and that is enough to force resignation. He's ready to break down g3 and sweep in for mate on g2. There isn't a good solution here, even just the win of a second pawn here. No counterplay for white in this position. This king is not breaking a sweat. Game over at this stage. What did you think with this one? Feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.